So I am really excited to talk to you guys today about personal branding and self-branding. This is something I'm really passionate about and something that I really love to help other people with and try to coach them through and understand really what their personal brand is, how they can build it, and how can they build it authentically. So I'm going to start with a big question. It's a really big question. Hello, everyone who's just joining. We're just getting into a really big question, which is, who are you? So first, we can go into a little bit about me. As I mentioned, I'm American and I live in London now. I used to live in Shanghai for 5 years, which is where I founded My Ming, which is a website that helps people in China or Chinese speakers who are looking to adopt an English name to represent them in their English speaking life and in their English speaking world. So I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship, building companies, talking to other entrepreneurs, and I love doing yoga, exercising, and I love plants. I have a lot of them, which you can't see on this wall, but they're all over there. All right, so I have a quick little exercise for you guys. And if everyone has a piece of paper, also, I mean, if you want to put it in the chat, feel free, you can share. So my first question is, take a second to write down, how would you describe yourself? So think about use some descriptive words. So something about your personality, how would you describe yourself? Okay, I love this. Self-assured, patient, introvert, that's beautiful. Human being. Sure. Okay, now take it a little step further, past just being a human. What type of human are you? When someone meets you, how would they describe you? How do you think you come off to other people? How do you think they would describe you if they had to go introduce you to someone else? And then also, as you're writing this down, think about what are some of your favorite things about yourself? What's something that you really love? Honest, you care for people, loyal, amazing, smile, keep smiling. So optimistic, maybe. Optimistic is a great word. So straightforward, quite shy, quiet, shy, active, helpful. Those are great terms. Funny, I love that. Diligent, positive, amazing, passionate, earnest, optimistic. What great words. Introvert. The world always needs introverts to be the thinkers and the people who are kind of behind the scenes. Honest, smiley, or you could say happy, cheerful, hardworking. Positive vibes, amazing. Honest, pessimistic, that is a trait that also a lot of people need. The optimists and the pessimists need to be friends so that you can all share your perspectives. These are all amazing, amazing words. Okay, that's great. So if you kind of take those top 3 words and circle them, you would then actually have your personal brand essence. So this is kind of like your essence, your personal brand. If you were a company, this is what people would say about you. And this is something that you can weave into your whole life. And it's something that you can tell the world. And so I know you might be thinking, why would I want to tell the world these things? Like, surely I just want to tell the world what I'm good at and, all my skills. I just want to tell the world that I can do Excel and I can do PowerPoint and I can speak English. But actually what the world really wants to hear is all of the stuff that you just told me in the chat, everything about yourself that's unique to you. And I love this quote by Oscar Wilde, who is an amazing author. It says, "Be yourself, everyone else is taken." And I love that because it really is true. Why try to be someone else? It's actually kind of impossible. It's impossible to be someone else. At the end of the day, you are who you are. And that's really what makes the world go round and what makes life here so interesting. And I would say that, being authentic and authenticity always wins, because you're never going to be able to be what other people want you to be, because it's just too hard. So many people are going to want you to be so many different things. At the end of the day, you just have to be who you are. And in terms of that, in a little bit more of a professional setting, I would say that people hire people. You know, when you hire someone and you bring them into your workplace, you're hiring people. You're not just hiring their skills. You're hiring the people with those skills. And that is actually an amazing gift to remember, that all of your uniqueness, all of these words you just said, that is equally as important in a professional setting as your skills. So, a strong personal brand. And I just saw a quick question about what is branding. So a strong personal brand is pretty much something that it highlights what's unique about you. So if we think about building our personal brand, this is everything from your LinkedIn profile, your social media, the clothes you wear, even the way you cut your hair, wear your hair, the way you talk, your body language, the way that you present, everything. This all comes in to a personal brand. And in a more professional setting, when you're going to get hired or you're building your career, this is something that you're kind of building towards. You're always building around this personal brand, which would be built around all of these traits and personality traits that you guys are talking about. And then also more specifically into what you're passionate about. So it's really important also that you build this personal brand around who you are and not just who you think you're meant to be. Okay, I love this point that just came up on the chat because I was actually going to include this into my presentation. A strong personal brand is, there's not necessarily a good brand or a bad brand. It's basically just a really clear message that you're sending to the world about yourself. And often, as clear as those messages can be, they're more powerful and they're received and they're kind of understood by more people. So like someone just mentioned in the chat, like President Trump, he has an incredibly strong personal brand. He knows exactly what he likes and what he likes to do and what he's passionate about, and he communicates that every single day to the public. So absolutely. But I would also always encourage that you remember that this personal brand really needs to be connected to what you're passionate about, who you are in your essence. So always go back to those words that really connect to you and that you feel connected to, like the optimism and compassionate, people who are loving, who are pessimistic, who are love challenges. It's important to remember that. Okay, so I have an interesting statement, and that I would like to tell you to not worry so much about the first impression. I think oftentimes we're told you have to make a good first impression, which means you have to start to think, okay, what is the other person? What will they approve of? And what will they see from me? But actually, don't think about that. Think more about, how can I make an authentic connection? How can I build my personal brand so people feel like they can connect with me and reach out to me? And they feel like they want to hire me. They want to work with me. They want to network with me, or get coffee with me. This is actually a much more, kind of productive way to brand yourself, because you're going to be constantly connecting with people who are interested in you and who you also probably find interesting. So while you're creating your LinkedIn profile in English, or while you're creating your CV or applying to a job, think about, how can I be as authentic as possible, and how can I create a connection with a person who's going to be reading this or seeing this? And we'll get to some examples in a second. Okay. So of course, it's obviously easier to just be yourself with your friends and family, and in your personal life, you're like, of course, I can be myself, that's fine. But in the professional world, it feels a little bit scary, I guess. You feel like, no, I need to make sure I can do a good job for this person. I need to make sure that they just see my skills. I don't want to tell them too much about myself. I don't want them to be, to get to know me too much, because they might not really understand me. But I'm here to tell you that you're more likely to get hired when you are being yourself. If you think about it in the other way around, when you go and meet someone new, or or even when you walk into a company or you buy a product, every time that you feel like there's authenticity, you actually trust that product or that person more. So the more that you can actually be authentic, the more people are going to trust and get to know you and understand you. And like I said, companies hire people, not just their skills. And you actually have control over what those people are seeing and that personal brand. So you can actually start to build that connection and what people are going to connect with. And again, we're about to get to some examples of that. So I just remember, your uniqueness is your strength. And just trust that being who you are will attract the best opportunities for you. So the more you can engage with what you're passionate about, whether that's online or offline, the more that you'll be building your personal brand automatically, because you're going to be in scenarios and situations where you're engaging with people who are interested in similar things. And so you're already going to be kind of branding yourself, but then you're also going to be engaging with people who can create opportunities for you. Okay, so here's how we do this and how we don't do this online. So let's focus online. A lot of our world these days, especially right now, those of us who are quarantining, everything's online. Every single thing is online. Even when I did this Zoom call today, I thought about what's going to be in my background. What am I going to wear? What do I want people to kind of get in my little box, the little box that I have to show you guys? What am I going to show you guys? And all of that is just building a brand. It's building your personal brand. So I just want to reiterate that, remember, the goal is to express who you are, not to become someone else. And I just saw in the chat that HR can easily read your mind if you're trying to be artificial. They are paid for it. And yeah, exactly. I mean, think about it. HR professional is a person as well. So they want to connect with you on a personal level too. It's all about being authentic. All right. So I picked a couple of LinkedIn profiles of, these are two of my connections and actually friends. I protected their last names a little bit, but I really liked their LinkedIn profiles, and I'm going to walk you through a couple of things specifically that I really liked about them. So firstly, with Helena, you can see that her photo is kind of fun. Like, she looks like she's having fun. She automatically, to me, looks like she enjoys what she's doing. She's taken that little circle and asked herself, what do I want to tell people who are coming to this profile? I have a little circle to show my personality. And she said, okay, I'm going to play with that. I'm going to make people think, and like, I'm going to show people that I really love what I'm doing and I'm a fun individual. And that works for what she's passionate in. So I really like how she says she's a brand builder, a launch partner, and a startup advisor. So she's fun, but she's very clear. She's very clear about what she does, and she's very clear about who she wants to work with. And then down below in her about, she talks about in the first person, which I really love that, because she takes ownership of what she's going to tell you. And she has ownership over what you're going to get from this profile. So she says, I'm a community and brand builder at heart, living my passions, advising startups. So she's really passionate about what she does. And then she goes down and she kind of talks a little bit more about her achievements, and she gives a little bit of credibility to her passions and how she's really lived them. And then here below, it's a little bit cut off, but she has some things she's been featured in, and her offline environment, her offline engagement, everything that she's doing offline is actually coming online and building to her online personal brand as well. And so now we can look over here at Alex. So his is a little bit more corporate. He's a corporate professional. He wants to brand himself as a little more polished, a little more serious, but you can still see that he has, a nice smile on his face, and he lists his role. So he has a very clear role as an employee in a business. But as you read his about, he talks about what he does and his company. But at the end, what I really love is he still humanizes himself. He still talks about, he says, my interests include delighting customers, mediocre jokes, which is just kind of a fun joke. And then he even asks people to go to his Twitter. So his Twitter is probably a place where he builds his brand, his personal brand even further. He talks about what he's passionate about, which could be everything from his company to even his outside of his company, his interests, you know, what he does to exercise, food he likes to eat, places he likes to travel. So these profiles are on LinkedIn. And the other thing that I love about Alex's profile here is he has been engaging with other articles on LinkedIn. So you can see here that he commented on an article on something that he was interested in, and then that was on his LinkedIn profile. And now I see him adding another little spot of where he's building his brand. He's saying, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this topic. And so now whoever's looking at his profile knows he's interested in that as well. Okay, and then this is going to be a pretty strong comparison. So as you can see here, I love this woman's profile too, Yang's profile. I love how she's decided to coordinate even the red in her banner to what she's wearing. You know, little things like that. She's in branding, so she's in a very visual industry, and she's taken the time to make sure that her profile looks really visually appealing and that it looks really nice, and that she has, you know, she's carrying everything through that she's passionate about into her personal brand. And I love how she talks about, again, in the first person, and she also has a lot of activity where she's commented on a lot of different things that she's interested in. And so I want us to look over here to the second profile. And basically, what's important to remember is that this gentleman is equally as special. He's equally as talented. He's equally as unique as everyone else. He also is a human being on planet Earth, which, you know, is something that we all are. So he automatically, by being a human being on planet Earth, he automatically has this uniqueness, but he hasn't taken any chances to actually express it. So now, you know, I don't really know what he's interested in. I know that he has 2 degrees. He's clearly a very smart individual. I know that he works in China, but I don't know anything else. I have no way of forming an authentic connection with this person, if that makes sense. So I would basically encourage you that all of this space that you have here and here, all the space that you have on something like a LinkedIn profile or your CV or an application, all the space you have, make sure that those words that you listed before in the chat, make sure that's coming through. Your optimism, your diligence, your hardworking nature, your kindness, your smile. You know, these are things that are authentic to you, and these are things that you can represent in your online profile. And yes, I'm seeing some comments. Yes, writing an authentic bio, I think, is incredibly important. Because again, it's not about just making that first impression. We can all say how great we are. We can all just say like all of the stuff that we're good at. We can say what we're qualified in, but that's not really building a human connection, an authentic human connection. What you can say instead is what you love to do, what you're passionate about, little things, a fun fact, just something interesting, something that when someone reads your profile and they reach out to you, they can say, oh, Yang, that is really cool that that you love building brands from scratch. I love actually building brands from scratch too. Where's your favorite place to start? How do you like to build brands? Or maybe you say, oh, you're passionate about bridging the connection between technology and business models and social entrepreneurship in the developing world. Young, where's your favorite place to travel? You know, clearly she likes traveling. So there's entry points into this that automatically when someone's reaching out to you or you go to reach out to someone else, you can connect with and you can form that authentic connection. The opposite of that is when you don't take the opportunity to really show your uniqueness and project it out into the world. You know, I don't know how to connect. I don't know exactly what past, you know, your education or some experience you're interested in. So I really encourage you to use this opportunity to actually inform the reader about your uniqueness and your authentic personal brand. Okay, so how that's online, and of course that also carries over into your social media. I guess one thing about, I can go back to social media for a bit, is like Alex in his follow me on Twitter. I would say don't be afraid that companies might look at your social media. At the end of the day, companies and people, we all go out to dinner. We all have, friends. These are things that actually make you human. And it's okay to, have that on your social media. I think that sometimes we try to hide a little bit too much behind just our professional skills. But at the end of the day, people are hiring people. So I think just use these opportunities to actually build further to your personal brand, like Alex has done. All right, so how do we do it offline? And I know that right now we live in a very online world, but even right now, as I am communicating to you with my hands, I know I talk with my hands a lot, there's still some kind of offline nonverbal communication going on. So this is a really interesting statistic. 55% of communication is nonverbal. So I know a lot of you are practicing English, and English is really important, but don't forget that a lot of it is also how you're presenting yourself and where you're looking and how you're smiling and even what you're wearing. So anything nonverbal, that is how that's over half of your communication. So I think that's really interesting to take into account. When you're speaking, the words are only half. You also need to think about, okay, do I have good posture? Am I engaged? Am I making eye contact? Because that's all sending people cues, and it's actually communicating just without words. So, if I was giving this presentation, I was kind of like, yeah, so um, it's like really important that you build a personal brand, and you just really need to make sure you know who you are. And you probably wouldn't actually listen to what I'm saying because I look so uninterested in what I'm saying. So when you're introducing yourself and you're maybe meeting new people or you're at a networking event, ask yourself how you can be your own billboard for your personal brand essence. And I just saw someone ask, can you tell us what you mean by personal branding versus a strong brand? So sorry, I'm kind of using those interchangeably. I should say a strong personal brand. So with this, we're all talking about a personal brand. Companies have brands. You have your corporate brand like Coca-Cola or Nike or Apple. They all have those are very clear what their corporate brands are, and they have very strong brands. When you walk into an Apple store, even if you didn't see any logos, you would know it was an Apple store. And with our personal brand, we can actually have a similar effect. When we're so clear on what we're passionate about and so clear on what we enjoy and what we want to communicate to the world, then people are going to know us by that. Yes. So Fatima just said, so you mean body language is as important as what you're saying? Yes. And actually, according to the statistic, I could say it's even more important than what you're saying verbally. So 55% is how you're saying it. And yes, a handshake reveals a lot about your personality. So, body language is a whole field of study. We could go into for hours about body language and how you present yourself, but I'm just going to give you a couple of key tips. One is definitely posture. If you ever see a billboard on the street and it's like kind of torn down, maybe half of it's broken off, and you see like the company name is Amazing Donuts or Amazing Coffee, you're probably thinking like, no, probably not good coffee. The billboard is like falling over. I can't trust that company. Like that company probably has horrible coffee. Like not gonna leave the road. See you later. So think about yourself as that billboard. when you walk into a room and you want to deliver a message to someone, 55% of it is kind of how you're saying it. So posture, I mean, one little exercise, you can bring your shoulders up to your ears and then drop them down, and then tilt your head forward a little bit, and then pretend like there's a string pulling you from the top of your head. So you can have really good posture. And of course, I want to be clear, there's, military posture, and then there's just relaxed, confident, but at ease posture as well. And also, I would just say eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. It's always so important to connect with the person that you're talking to. It shows that you're interested. It shows that you're engaged. It shows that you're listening, and then they're also going to listen to you. So it's kind of a two-way street. And also, hand gestures. I talk with my hands. This is something, I'm American. It's just who I am. I'm American and I live in London. And at first, I might have thought, oh, I need to tone that down a little bit. Like, I'm American, I live in the UK. But actually what ended up happening was people were more drawn to me because I was American, and I wasn't really shying away from that. I was kind of just saying, like, this is who I am. And I actually think people were more connected to me because I was just being more authentically who I am. I wasn't trying to tone anything down. And speaking of Americans, because we are very big on handshakes, I'm quickly going to go over a handshake. I just saw someone say it's so much more, or it reveals a lot about a lot about you. And yes, so the handshake is a really important aspect of nonverbal communication. So why does it matter so much? Well, apparently it dates back to a long time ago, 5th century BC. And it was showing that you didn't have a weapon. So you were shaking hands as a way to connect, a symbol of peace, and to say, like, hi, we're friends, I don't have a weapon. That's quite interesting. But today, I would say it's even more about trust. So a firm, strong handshake transmits your underlying confidence in yourself and your abilities. I mean, what an amazing opportunity to say, hi, here I am. I'm a solid person. I'm really excited to talk to you, and I'm confident. Let's meet and get chatting. And I think what often happens is people just kind of see this as like an awkward formality just to get to the conversation, but don't forget about that 55%. This is a huge nonverbal, so nonverbal, not using your mouth, nonverbal communication. It's actually probably one of the most important when you meet someone new. So we have some pretty bad handshake examples at the bottom. But I just wanted to kind of handshaking nowadays, this is true. Who knows if we'll do this after? I mean, I have a feeling that people are still, I think we're all just gonna be wearing really like gloves and then handshake, or do a namaste. That is nice. But let's just say a handshake arises in your future. Just even if this only happens once in the next 10 years, you still want to get it right because it's just that important. So this is basically when you kind of, a firm handshake. So you can actually practice on yourself. So if everyone just goes like this. So if you want to feel like you're trusting yourself, so feel like you're making a connection, you don't want to squeeze too tight, like, ow, okay, that hurts. But you also don't want to like have this really, really like loose, that's like no confidence. I have no confidence in myself. I'm just like, oh, hi, that's not good. Yeah, don't crush their hand. But you want to have a nice firm, like, we're friends, I'm confident, you can trust me. So here are 3 that people are saying that I found. So the lobster claw, I think, unfortunately, a lot of times women are guilty of this. They just kind of grab the hand like that. Don't do that. Come on, we're strong, we're trustworthy. The dead fish, that's the one that's kind of like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. That's people will judge you on that. So I don't do that. And then also this last one, you want to make sure that you're making that connection. So not the fingers. You want to actually be in a nice handshake. So you have the connection here. Um, yeah, you can practice with your friends. You can practice at home, just trying to get a good feel. And it takes practice, but it is a really important part of nonverbal communication and building that confidence and kind of saying like, I'm a confident person and I have things to say and I'm excited to meet you and you can trust me. All right. And so lastly, this personal brand that you're building, it's a continuous evolution. You can always pick up new interests, add new things, but definitely I would start with what you're passionate about, where you want to work, and how do you find moments online and offline to engage and show people that this is what you're interested in so that then they can come in and say, hey, I'm interested in that too. I also like that, or tell me more about that. I'm really interested in what you have to say about that. So always try to build your brand around things that you are truly and authentically interested in, passionate about, things that you love, and then put those in places and places people can see and connect with. And as you create your new profiles, write your CVs, fill in applications, you can ask yourself, does it align with my personal brand essence? So does it show my optimism? Does it show my hard work? Does it show, my ability to smile through difficult things, to also, does it show that I've actually, I have an opinion, I have a pessimistic view, I make sure that I really look at those numbers, just even by what you comment on LinkedIn, like I showed you, it can show that this is kind of how you interact with the world. And then you can kind of build that into all of your passions, and people will just be constantly connecting with you in ways that you want them to connect with you as well, which is kind of why it's a win-win situation to take the opportunity to hone in on your personal brand. Okay, so that is the first bit. Okay, wait 1 second. I just got someone's lost. From medical to telecom engineer to software engineer. I like astronomy now. So you have a lot of passions. That is actually okay. I think that a piece of advice that I would give you is to pick what you want your loudest message to be. So you like astronomy now. Is that what you want to connect with people on? Is that, the articles you want to comment on? Are those the meetups you want to go to? What is the place where you feel the most engaged, you feel the most passionate about, and you like engaging with people on? So maybe ask yourself that question. And also, some of these can be careers, but some can be hobbies. And a hobby is just as much of a personal brand builder as a career. So maybe, you are a software engineer who likes astronomy. That is incredible. That is such a cool spectrum of skills. So you can build software, and then also even on LinkedIn, or you can look into some amazing companies doing things in astronomy. You can write an article about astronomy. You can somehow link engineering and astronomy. You can build an app that talks about astronomy. There's always ways to build in what you like around a personal brand. Again, you don't have to try to only be one thing or be what you should be, but make sure you're picking the loudest message and you're talking about things that you really are passionate about and you really want to engage with other people on. So if that helps. Also, it's okay to be a little lost sometimes. Sometimes we have to try on a lot of different hats to figure out exactly what's the right one. And like I just mentioned, it's a continuous evolution. So you don't have to always just be stuck in one thing, but just remember that if you have that one thing that you want to build around really loudly, then go for it. Okay, so now we're going to talk quickly about English names too. Oh, you're very welcome. English names, which I think might only apply to a few people here. Obviously, my business, My Ingwening, is all about picking an English name in China. But maybe this might be interesting to some people just in general, because English names are actually like such a fascinating subject. They're quite different to how a lot of the rest of the world and other languages choose names. So a lot of our clients and a lot of people that we work with, they actually choose names later in life. And this is like the coolest opportunity to pick a name that matches your personal brand, because I was just given my name. I didn't have any say. My parents were just wrote a few names down and they were like, yeah, we like that one. And Lindsay has been my name my whole life. But for people who choose a name later in life, they have this amazing opportunity to pick a name that highlights their uniqueness and that works with who they are and their essence and their brand, their personal brand, and everything that they like and love, and their personality. And I think it's just such an exciting way that if you choose to pick an English name, you have such an exciting opportunity to really let your essence shine. So a lot of people ask us, what is a good English name? And really, there's no such thing as like a good English name, but there is such thing as an inappropriate name and an appropriate name. So on this name tag here, the name Lonely. So lonely is not really a name. It's just an adjective. And so there's some people who get a little confused. So I guess for those of you who are really like learning English right now, you know the difference between a common noun and a proper noun. And names are proper nouns, but a lot of times people confuse the difference between a name and just a noun or just an adjective. And so that's something that we really help with. The next question is to ask yourself about a name is, does it represent me? So is it representative of what I am and what, my personality and what I bring to the world and my uniqueness? And that is something that we also help with, because names have kind of carry with them a certain personality and a certain energy. And lastly, and this is so important, do I feel confident and comfortable introducing myself in English with this name? So when I go to give that handshake or the namaste now, will I say like, hi, I'm Lindsay, and I feel that fits me and I feel confident and I feel proud of that. And that is when we feel like we've helped a client with that, that's when we feel like, oh, amazing. You really have a great name, and you're going to walk into a room or a conversation and you're going to feel confident with that name. So that's really what a good English name is. So what's interesting is that names really have a certain energy to them, how they sound, how they look, and also who's used them in the past for centuries, because English names have been around for a long time. It gives them a certain energy. So the E sound, like Kaylee or Harry, that's a very cheerful sounding name. Lindsay as well, because actually at the end, your mouth kind of smiles. So Kaylee, Harry, Lindsay. So these are actually like cheerful names. The energy is quite optimistic for those optimistic people out there. This is a great sound to carry in your name. The ah sound, so Samantha, Ava, Alexandra. These have a little bit more of like a classic sound. It's a little bit more of a peaceful sound. And then you have the N, like Morgan, Jonathan. This sounds quite sturdy. It ends on a consonant, which is like the N, not a vowel. So that feels really strong and really confident and trustworthy. And so for people who are asking about names, do you guys mind just putting them in the Q&A so I can make sure I get back to them? Because I'm going to leave this open to a lot of questions about names, because I think that there will be a few. So like the Jenny, Sarah, Neo, Mary, just put that in the Q&A real quick, and then we'll get back at the end. Okay, this is really cool. So there's actually this, it's a brain condition where some people see words as colors. And so there's this website, it's called synesthesia. Synesthesia. It's called synesthesia. And you can actually go to this website, you can type in a name, and you can see which colors come up and which colors are attributed to that name for the people who have this condition. So when they see a word, they have a color associated with it. And this is so true, because certain names, they have certain frequencies and certain energies, and that matches certain colors, certain imagery. So it's really important, again, to know that when you're picking a name. And then there's also this idea of the fact that English names especially are reused and reused and reused over time. So it's not like we just make them up with every new baby that's born. We borrow, we take names from our ancestors, we take them from our grandparents, we take them from people that we admire, we take them from celebrities that we love, or we just take them from, you know, something we heard them and we like them. But they've always kind of been carried, they've been worn by other people. So with Henry, you know, we have Henry VIII, who was like a really strong, dominant person. This is Henry Ford, who invented the car, who was a really dominant person. And this is a younger actor named Henry, I forget his last name. But, you know, he kind of has this very like sharp features, strong look about him. And then we also have something like Elizabeth. So Queen Elizabeth, Elizabeth Taylor, and Elizabeth Olsen. So it's also interesting to think, thank you, Henry Cavill, that's it, thank you. So it's important to think about who else has had this name in the past. And so there's actually this, this psychological theory that your name can affect who you become. Because if you have a certain name that carries a certain energy, that kind of is already sending a cue, a nonverbal, it's a communication tool. Your name is communicating something about you before you even have a chance to introduce yourself. Sometimes, you know, you wear a name tag at a networking event and they already see your name and they're already thinking like, oh, that name feels like this to me, etc. So then people kind of perceive you as a certain way. Then they start to treat you that way, and then you start to act that way. So this is like a mind blown kind of thing. But the main point that this is driving home is that a name is just really, really important. And you really just want to be clear about what you're saying with your name when you choose one, because it can really affect your personal brand and just who you become in life. So the good news is we're here to help with that decision. So, and for the people who are interested, we actually we have a Taobao coupon for our services. You can check out our website. And also we will send you our WeChat ID. So if you have any further questions about English names, you can actually add us on WeChat. And then, yeah, Sylvia, who actually helps me with the company, she's going to send, you can add our WeChat, Ingwen Ming Kefu. And then also we have a Taobao coupon for anyone who's interested, who has any questions. We just want to help as much as possible because, like I just said, English names are so important if you're going to choose one, and it's such an amazing opportunity to really say to the world, this is who I am, and this is my uniqueness, and this is what I represent. So we love helping people with that. And we also just published a book. And so if you're interested and send us your address, we can send you a free book just to say thank you for engaging with us today in this seminar. And yeah, it's been so nice getting to know all of you and chatting with you guys. I guess now we would move over to the Q&A. I guess anyone else, if you have any other questions, just add them in the Q&A quickly. And we can go from there.
Shall I read the questions, Lindsay, then, and you can answer them?
Yeah, sure.
That was great. Thank you very much for your presentation. I enjoyed that very much myself as well. So let's start with the first question that we got in. Teacher Lindsay, I have a small question. How long did it take for you to create your own personal brand?
That's such a good question. I think that, well, like I said, it's always evolving. And I do think as you get older, it evolves a little slower. So I think when I was younger, I loved so many things. And I think that is important, you know, like as we grow up, we have to try lots of things. And we live in this amazing world where we have the internet, and we have so many options. So we get to actually try on lots of different hats. And I think it's so important. But I think the second that you land on something that really makes you happy and that you love talking to other people about, then I would start building a stronger, more clear brand around that. And for me, I would say that happened probably between like 25, 26, and probably got stronger in the past few years. And that was really this brand around entrepreneurship and around building businesses. And that's when if I have dinner with a friend who's another entrepreneur, I'm so excited to go. If I have a conference that's about other entrepreneurs, I'm so excited to go. You know, so I think when you start engaging with groups of people and you start talking about topics that make you like really excited every time, then that's when you can kind of start to bet on that around like, okay, this is something that I want to really, really put out there to the world. Is like, this is something I love.
Fantastic. That definitely makes sense, and I guess it's something that evolves as you evolve as a person, because you don't
Absolutely.
stay the same your whole life. Okay.
Absolutely.
Next question, specifically regarding a name: is Kronos, Khronos, a good English name for a boy?
So I would say that name feels more Greek than English. So it's interesting because English names are actually made up of Greek names, Latin names, Norse names, so from Scandinavia, and then Old English names. So while there are some English names that have Greek backgrounds, like Sophie or Sophia, Kronos it hasn't really made its way into the English speaking world. So that actually just feels like a Greek name. So I wouldn't recommend that name if you're going to be speaking English mostly.
The next question is more, I guess, about corporate branding. Somebody's asking, elaborating on your billboard example, if a pizza parlor says we make the third best pizza in town, are people really going to be drawn to that? That's just
That's such a funny, yeah. Let's see. I'd like to ask, wait, what's the first word? I'd like to ask if authenticity, oh, I see what you're saying. So so if you make the third best pizza in town and you want to be authentic, so people it's all about how you communicate it. So maybe you wouldn't say we make the third best pizza in town. Sure, that's a fact. Maybe you're on TripAdvisor and you're the third best pizza. That's just like a fact that other people have said about you. What do you have control over stating? So I wouldn't say, oh, I went to like a pretty good university, because I did. I went to a pretty good university. I didn't go to Oxford or Harvard. But what I do say is I actually just I wouldn't really talk about that, or I talk about my favorite classes at that university. I talk about how much I love studying international affairs at that university, what I was passionate about. So if you're the third best pizza company, for example, maybe instead of having to speak to that one fact, you say, we love our customers, we have the best customer base, and we can't wait to meet you, or something like that. Does that make sense? You don't have to actually just stick to like a fact. Talk about something you can control.
Okay. The next question is, I am a mechanical engineer and interested in business entrepreneurship in the same field. I left my job to pursue higher education and look for opportunities. What can my personal brand be like?
Nice. Okay. Well, I mean, in higher education and in the education field, there's so many amazing startups actually, and so many, I mean, even like Integrate, like where Rachel works, it's not a super startup, it's a big business, but they're doing really cool things. And actually the founder is such an entrepreneur. And I think within the industry of higher education, you can look for some key entrepreneurs that you really admire, and you can try to either network with them, comment on some of their posts on LinkedIn. But I definitely think like if you're interested in business and entrepreneurship, so I left my job to pursue higher education, I guess, as in like you're getting a degree. So I would say that while you're getting while you're pursuing higher education, this is actually an amazing time to start looking at some key players in the industry that you like. So if you're a mechanical engineer, sorry, I see your question now. If you're a mechanical engineer, maybe start looking at some of the founders and some of the entrepreneurs within mechanical engineering and figuring out, what did they do? Start to understand where they're reading and writing things. And then you can kind of start to take on that angle into your career, because that's something that you're interested in.
Fantastic. A question about the name Sarah. How about if I choose Sarah to represent my confidence? Is that a good name for that?
So, okay, Sarah is one of those names that a lot of people have used, which actually is not a bad thing, because what it means is that you get to kind of make it your own. So with names that are really unique, like let's say a name like Dahlia, okay, that's a flower name. It has a very clear message on its own. You don't know that many Dahlias. When you think of Dahlia, you think of a flower, and then you kind of take on that image and put it onto the person. Sarah, on the other hand, actually has the opposite. You actually can kind of bring what you want to that name, because its own imagery is kind of diluted because so many people have used it. So I would say a Sarah can be a lot of different people, and it has been a lot of different people. It's how you introduce yourself as Sarah. So I think Sarah is a great name. The only challenge with it is that a lot of other people have used it, and you might run into a lot of other Sarahs along the way. So if you want something a little more unique, then maybe look into something else. But it's a beautiful name, and people will always get it right. They won't have trouble pronouncing it, and they'll know that it's a name, and it's very solid.
Great. I think that leads well into the next question, which is, I like the name Hyper, but I don't know if I should use it, which is the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes, that is quite the opposite end of the spectrum. So Hyper is not technically an English name. It's not a name that English speakers have. There's kind of this like societal agreement of what's a name and what's not a name. And so Hyper is one of those names that people wouldn't think is an actual name. If they saw it written on a piece of paper, they would think that someone just wrote down the word hyper. They wouldn't think about a name. Also, the word hyper itself has a very like high energy. It already puts an image of your head of maybe like a really crazy kid who's like running around, or a puppy dog who like can't sit still. So I would just be really clear that that's the image you're giving off, first of all, but then also you're going to run into some challenges, and that people don't really know it's a name. So you'll just miss out on your opportunity to connect through your name.
Somebody's posted, how do we join the WeChat group? So that was included in the chat. I don't know if Sylvia maybe wants to link that again.
So just add Ingwen Ming Kufu on WeChat, and then she'll add you to the group. We'll put a group that's called like IELTS seminar or something, and then we'll add you to the group. So just add her on WeChat.
Now, Ali is asking, why do we need to change our name? Is it really necessary?
And absolutely not. So this is a practice that has been happening in China more specifically for a couple of decades now. And it's something that the reason we started the business was because people were kind of choosing English names that were not appropriate. And they were really hurting their personal brand, because as an English speaker, so I used to work in China, and I had some colleagues that had some really awkward English names. And I saw some other foreigners like laughing behind their back and not really taking them seriously, not really seeing all of their talents, all of their uniqueness, and instead just getting stuck that their English name was silly or funny. So I would say, if you have a Chinese name that you love, you have a name that you love, that is amazing, and you feel connected to it. It's just for people who decide that they want an English name. We just help them choose one that represents them.
Great. So yeah, say you don't have to do it, but if you do it, then you can help them do it well.
Exactly.
Okay. What about Fatima as a name?
I think that's a beautiful name. Absolutely. It's a gorgeous name.
Okay, fantastic. I want to be an entrepreneur, and do business. What name is best for me? I am a girl. That's quite a big question for you to answer.
Yeah, that is a good question. I would definitely recommend join the WeChat group, and we can connect. And then also you can use the coupon or request a book, because there's a lot of names in the book. There's one thing that I would say from an entrepreneur perspective is definitely a name that is a well-respected name, but also I think you want something that isn't too common, because hopefully one day when you build your amazing business and people are Googling you, your name isn't so common that they can't find you. So that's something interesting to think about.
Great. Somebody's asking about their CV, because the normal CV for Europe is so boring. Do you have any advice or inspiration for something more imaginative?
I love that question. I think it really depends on the industry. I think you do have to know your audience. I've seen some amazing CVs that are in more of like the creative industry, and they basically are, they create full websites with a look and feel, and that I think is incredible. And I think, you know what, if you're in an industry that has any time and space for creativity, I would not be afraid to experiment with, some design aspects, or putting something online, or just what you could also do is maybe the CV, you got to follow some rules. You need to figure out how you keep that within the norms. But you can always link to like a personal website, which I think is an amazing way to brand yourself on things you're interested in, blog posts you've written or reposted. And that's where you can play with colors that represent you, fonts, I think that's a really nice way for people to get to know you better. If you don't have a big LinkedIn presence or other online presence, you can always kind of take matters into your own hands with like a personal website CV situation. And then you can just have your boring CV, but they can always refer to other platforms for some more color and personality.
Great. I'm conscious that we're getting to the hour point, and I want to give you a chance to just finish up and say goodbye. I think one important question, just is the website address.
It's not working. What country are you in? Let's see.
I don't know if we'll get the attendee to reply, but Ingwenming, that is the correct website address, so it should be working.
Yeah. If it doesn't work, I'll just check. Why is it not working for me either? I'll just check if it's oh my gosh, that is so
I'm sure
weird.
you can sort that.
Yeah, I'll sort it out literally
sure
in like
websites,
in 2 seconds. But yeah, just add us on WeChat if you use WeChat, and we can we can go from there. Also, I'll message when the website is working. I'll fix it now.
Great.
Thank you for letting me know.
No problem. Okay, so we'll round up just now. I'm afraid, sorry that we didn't manage to get through everybody's questions, but like you said, people can always add you on WeChat and connect with you that way, and then or they can get in touch and maybe they would like to read the book, and maybe that would answer some of their questions as well.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like the website's working now. That was so weird. Sometimes it's based in China, so sometimes some internet problems with the Chinese websites. So yeah, just try again. It should be working.
Okay, great. So, but it's ingwenming.com. So
yeah, just like englishname.com. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. Yeah, please just add us on WeChat, or you can also add me on LinkedIn. It's just my full name.